Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Pride Month. It's not Pride Month while I'm filming this, but it will be once I post it. And what better subject to tackle on in Pride Month than queerbaiting? What's queerbaiting? I'm going to read you the Wikipedia definition of queerbaiting. Queerbaiting is a marketing technique for fiction and entertainment in which creators hint at, but then do not actually depict, same-sex romance or other LGBTQ representation. They do so to attract, bait, a queer or straight ally audience with their suggestion of relationships or characters that appeal to them, while at the same time attempting to avoid alienating other consumers. Basically, this is about subtext. When you watch audiovisual content, whether it be any kind of media, TV or movie, there's what actually happens, what is said by characters, and what you can read from the actions. For example, that's what a lot of TV shows are based upon, the sexual subtext between some of their main characters. Like all those police and investigation TV shows, where they're the male and female main character, and they have this tension, this sexual tension, this subtext about their relationship that it could go in a romantic way, and it often does, like Bones or Lucifer. It's everywhere. This subtext is hinting at the possibility of a relationship, and it usually keeps the audience captivated by the projects. They want to see them get together. Now, queerbaiting is something very specific. It's when that subtext is heavily homoerotic and they don't act on it. Because when you watch Castle, they may take I don't know how many seasons to get together, but they do. Big examples of queerbaiting is Sherlock and Watson, both in the movie and in the TV show.
It's always you, John Watson, you keep me right.
There are some kind of situations where you can clearly read a subtext of attractions between the two characters. And the directors, the people who make these products, they know about it. There's whole subsections of the genre of people who see the subtext, of fans who are really loving the idea and adoring it. But they never act on it, and they play on it to bring more audience, more queer audience or queer-friendly audience into the show without actually making it happen. In the scene in the movie where they have this whole play when Sherlock is cross-dressing as a woman and he's like really close in his face with Watson, this builds up some kind of attraction and subtext, sexual tension between the characters, but they will never kiss or hint at anything else than platonic relationship. But the subtext is there, all the images, the closeness, everything you would want out of a relationship between two characters is actually there, but it's all subtext. And it's used to drag people in because you promise them this kind of homoerotic relationship. Like, you don't tell them it's gonna be platonic, but you keep it platonic because you don't want the homophobes to be like, whoa, there's gays everywhere now, whoa. Like, you don't want to piss off the homophobes. And you try not to alienate the queer audience, so you give them little crumbs of context, like, oh my god, look at that, they're so close.
But you're keeping the outfit, right?
They're really good friends. And yeah, no, they're definitely boning, but hey. But this is, it's even worse when they act on it. There's several examples. One of the biggest example of queerbaiting, except Sherlock and Watson, is Destiel, which is in Supernatural. Dean Winchester and the angel Castiel, without even watching the show. I wasn't watching the show when it was running. It was running until this year. I knew about Destiel because I was on the internet. I was interacting with fandom, so of course I knew about Destiel. They had a whole subtext of attraction, and people were shipping the characters together, and there's a whole queer fan base of Supernatural, like a huge queer fan base of Supernatural that love these characters together. And the writers and directors of the show knew it because they played on it. And they really did. They talk about fan fiction in some episodes. They even talk about the gay subtext of Supernatural.
I'll have to send you some fake links later.
What are they doing?
Kids these days call it hugging.
Is that in the show?
No, Siobhan and Kristen are a couple in real life. Although we do explore the nature of Destiel in Act 2.
Sorry, what?
Oh, it's just subtext. But then again, you know, you can't spell subtext without S-E-X.
And it's kind of like, it's even worse when they know it and they poke fun at it, because then you know it's intentional. Like, they know there's this subtext, they know they have this big queer fan base of their show, but they're still too scared to do something about it. Yeah, Supernatural is this whole kind of thing, because they actually made one of the characters come out right before killing him and sending him to super hell, so... yeah, that doesn't send a really great message, does it? Anyway, so this queer subtext is everywhere. Queer audiences are a big part of audiences. There's a lot of queer-friendly content created by fandoms. If you look at the fanfiction world, there's a lot of queer content in it, because queer viewers don't have enough queer character, enough queer representation on screen, and so they have to create it and they have to expect it and hope for it. And queer baiting is actually building and capitalizing on this hope that queer audiences have to see themselves on screen, and they put the whole subtext of it, like they tease people like, you're gonna get something very gay, like you're gonna get it, like there's a lot of queer subtext, but they never act on it because they don't want to alienate anything. And they really play on it, like some of the teaser trailers for the second and third season of Sherlock, the TV show, were really playing on this atmosphere. In Supernatural, they even talk about it on the show. Even in Hannibal and the TV show Hannibal, there's a big queer bait between Hannibal and Will. And even after the fact, the creator keeps talking about it, but there's networks are incredibly scary of implementing queer stories in different kind of contents. But queer baiting is really, it's kind of a low blow. It's kind of like getting the best of both worlds and not compromising anything. You attract queer audiences and queer-friendly audiences and people who want more diversity, and you tell them with subtext and with... even sometimes when you play on it, like the actors can play on it, and you talk about chemistry and everything, and you drag them in, and you're like, okay, you know, you're welcome to see this show, look at that, look at all the queer subtext we're putting, but you don't act on it, because if you act on it, you're afraid of alienating another audiences, more homophobic and conservative audiences that doesn't want it, because if you don't want to see it, like, and so it's kind of walking this line between, like, you encourage actually the audiences to see queer subtext because you want them to keep interacting with your content, but you never make it official, and they have to get these crumbs and get this, all these, you know, situation where like they're in close proximity and all these romantic tropes that you turn at the last moment into a friendly thing, so you don't actually queer it. And they just have to get on with the crumbs and never have it made official, because you don't want, like, you don't want to get your foot wet in it. You're just like, yeah, like, I'll let you, and they walk on this fine line between saying like, oh, just keep watching, and like, who knows, maybe it happened. Like, you don't tell them no, and you just let them keep hoping about it and never do anything about it, which is rude for one, and like mean for two. So yeah, basically this is what queer baiting is, and it's often used also as a marketing tool. Let's talk about the last Star Wars movie. There was this big thing about being a gay scene, like gay representation in it. And the gay representation was two background characters who don't even have a name kissing in the background. Like, the scene could be cut and it would absolutely not impact the movie. Which means it's completely useless. Like, it's not the characters aren't important enough to be part of the main storyline. that's not representation. Like, that's like, you want a good point, like you want a cookie, a representation cookie for that, you're not gonna get it because it doesn't work. And it's always like that. Like in was it Avengers Endgame, there was like, oh, but there's queer character, the queer character is like just one dude talking about his boyfriend who died in the blip or something like that. And it's like, this character doesn't have a name, we don't know who he is, this is the only time we'll see him in, and this scene could be cut and it really wouldn't impact the movie. Same thing. And these big corporations put this in and they're like, but yeah, look at that, we're giving you queer characters, but they're not actually characters. They don't even have names, they don't have interaction, they don't help forward the storyline. So they're useless, basically, and they're just like, they could be cut to go into some markets where people are more like homophobic than others. And really, it just keeps on happening. And we know about it, we've talked about it, people talk about that, and queerbaiting is still a big thing because they let people speculate, like, this character could be queer, like you show them a little flirty and flustered, and you give them you give the character the opportunity of being queer without actually going through with it and having a real main queer character in your art, in your craft, in your story. And it's harmful because people use that to be like, yeah, but I'm an ally, look at that, I gave you an almost queer characters, aren't you happy? No, not at all. And it's a very harmful thing that the studio do because they don't want, you know, to do something and get out of it. So they're just like, whoop, like, we're not alienating anyone, but you're still catering to your homophobic base over your queer base, you know? You don't have to make all the character queer, we just want one or two, like a couple of main characters that actually have a sensitive and important queer storyline. Which they do not, because they're too scared of alienating homophobic audiences, so they don't take a stand on important issues and they don't actually act on representation of diversity on screen. So it's fucked up. Now you know. The more you know. So this was what queerbaiting is, and now hopefully you can maybe see what it is and spot it the next time around. Thanks for watching, see you soon. Bye!
Thank you.